Have you ever wondered how a plastic action figure became a global icon, defining the childhoods of millions? Let's travel back to the early 1980s, a time when the toy industry was about to be turned upside down. This is the story of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, a franchise that wasn't just built to sell toys, it was the toys, and it changed everything. It all started at Mattel. They had just passed on making the action figures for a little movie called Star Wars. Imagine that. Missing out on Star Wars was a massive blow, and Mattel was desperate for their own blockbuster toy line. Their designers were tasked with creating something epic, something that could compete with the sci-fi craze. Artist Roger Sweet, inspired by everything from Conan the Barbarian to Frank Frazetta's fantasy art, presented a trio of prototype figures. Among them was a massively muscled, blonde-haired barbarian. This was the birth of He-Man. But Mattel knew a toy alone wasn't enough. They needed a story, a universe. They needed a way to bring these characters to life in the minds of kids everywhere. So, they took a huge gamble. Instead of creating a toy line based on an existing movie or comic, they decided to build an entire fictional world from scratch, specifically to sell their new figures. They developed a backstory involving the magical planet of Eternia, the heroic He-Man, and his arch-nemesis, the bone-faced sorcerer Skeletor. The initial launch in 1982 came with mini-comics packed inside each action figure box. These comics told the early tales of Eternia, establishing Prince Adam as He-Man's alter ego and building the lore of Castle Grayskull. The toys were an instant hit. They were bigger and more muscular than the standard Star Wars figures, with a unique Power Punch action feature. Kids loved them. Castle Grayskull became one of the most iconic playsets of all time, a must-have for every fan. But the real game-changer was yet to come. To truly dominate the market, Mattel partnered with the animation studio Filmation to create a daily cartoon series. This was a revolutionary move. At the time, regulations around advertising to children were strict, and a show created solely to promote a toy line was unheard of. They pitched He-Man and the Masters of the Universe not as a 30-minute commercial, but as an adventure show with a positive moral message. At the end of each episode, a character would directly address the audience, explaining the lesson learned from the day's adventure. This clever addition helped them navigate the broadcasting rules and get the show on the air in 1983. The cartoon was an absolute phenomenon. Suddenly, every kid in the schoolyard was yelling, "By the power of Grayskull, I have the power!" The show brought the characters to life in a way the mini-comics never could. It gave us He-Man's kindness, Skeletor's comically evil schemes, and a whole cast of unforgettable heroes and villains like Man-at-Arms, Teela, Beastman, and Evil Lyn. The show expanded the universe, introducing new characters who, surprise, surprise, would soon appear on toy store shelves. The strategy was brilliant. The show created demand, and the toys fulfilled it. This model of a toy-driven cartoon became the blueprint for the 80s. Soon, we had Transformers, G.I. Joe, Thundercats, and more, all following the He-Man formula. Mattel had not only created a successful franchise, they had pioneered a new era of children's entertainment and marketing. For a few glorious years, He-Man was king. The toy line expanded with dozens of figures, vehicles, and playsets. There were lunchboxes, bedsheets, video games, you name it, He-Man was on it. Then in 1985, at the peak of He-Man's popularity, Mattel launched a spin-off aimed at girls. She-Ra, Princess of Power. She-Ra was He-Man's long-lost twin sister, Adora, who led a great rebellion on the planet of Etheria. The show was just as successful, proving that powerful heroines could be just as popular as their male counterparts. She-Ra was a trailblazer, a strong, compassionate leader who inspired a generation of young girls. The franchise was an unstoppable cultural force. So what happened? Why did it all seem to vanish overnight? Well, by the late 80s, the market was saturated. The formula Mattel had perfected was now being used by everyone. Kids' attention spans are short, and new, exciting properties like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were capturing their imagination. Mattel tried to innovate with a live-action movie in 1987, starring Dolph Lundgren as He-Man. But the film strayed too far from the cartoon's tone, and while it's now a cult classic for its campiness, it failed to reignite the franchise's fire at the time. Toy sales dwindled, the cartoon ended, and just as quickly as it had arrived, the Masters of the Universe faded from the mainstream. But true power never really disappears. Throughout the 90s and 2000s, He-Man lived on in the hearts of the kids who grew up with him. That generation, now adults, began to feel a powerful sense of nostalgia. The internet allowed fans to connect, share memories, and rediscover their love for Eternia. This groundswell of fan devotion kept the flame alive. It led to several revival attempts, including a new animated series in 2002, and the fantastic Masters of the Universe Classics toy line, aimed directly at adult collectors. This brings us to today. He-Man is experiencing a massive resurgence. We've seen multiple new animated series on Netflix, like Kevin Smith's Revelation, a direct sequel to the original series, and a CGI show aimed at a new generation of kids. This demonstrates the enduring appeal of these characters. The core concepts, the battle between good and evil, the idea that anyone has the power to be a hero, and the blend of fantasy and science fiction, are timeless. So why does He-Man still matter? It's more than just nostalgia. He-Man represented a new kind of hero for the 80s. He was incredibly strong, but he wasn't a violent brute. He always tried to outsmart his enemies and solve problems with the least amount of force necessary. He was kind, compassionate, and always fought for what was right. And the show's moral segments, while sometimes a bit cheesy, taught valuable lessons about friendship, honesty, and believing in yourself. The legacy of Masters of the Universe is twofold. Commercially, it forever changed the relationship between toys and television, creating a marketing model that dominated an entire decade and continues to influence media today. Culturally, it gave us an iconic hero and a rich, imaginative world that captured the minds of millions. It taught us that we all have the power to make a difference, to be the hero of our own story. From a simple plastic figure to a global cultural touchstone, the story of He-Man is a testament to the power of imagination. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back to Eternia. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into your favorite franchises, and let me know in the comments who your favorite Master of the Universe is. Until next time, good journey.